to the 50 Afrikaners who fled to the US, calling themselves refugees. You are not refugees. You are just a case study of white flight dressed up as martyrdom. You're not escaping violence, you're escaping equality. South Africa didn't chase you away. You ran. Yes, South Africa is one of the most violent countries in the world. Yes, brutality exists. But let's be honest, violence affects all communities, not just white farmers. Black, colored, Indian, and yes, white people are all targets of a national crime crisis. What we have is a breakdown in safety, not a white genocide. This is not ethnic cleansing, it's criminal collapse, and running to the US won't fix it. You are part of a 7% minority, but somehow still manages to control over 70% of the wealth. That is not persecution, that's privilege on a guilt trip. And let's be real, if we tried to relocate just half of the Afrikaans population, it would take decades, billions in logistics, and you'd still end up culturally homeless in a country that don't want your apartheid baggage. You're not brave, you're not victims. You're scared of a world where you don't get to be in charge, and that makes the rest of the Afrikaans community cringe, because you make us look weak. South Africa is broken, and it's our problem to solve. So if you don't have the spine to do so, stay gone.
Guys. I don't even know how to not laugh about this, but I have some funny news coming from the divided states. Like, what is going on in the divided states, to be quite honest? Because I think you guys remember when I was talking about Trump, like calling, white South Africans to come to the divided states because, like there's a lot of things going on. They're being killed and so on. Yes, we know South Africa has crime, but that crime actually is applicable to everyone. It's not only white farmers that are being killed. And this is not even crime that we can say it's only applicable in South Africa. In the divided states, there is a lot of crime too that's going on there. What are they talking about? Anyway, having said that, so Trump, obviously the Trump administration say like, any white South African who wants to the divided states can come. So obviously, I think you know what I talk about in my other video. I'm going to put the link here. So fast forward, 50 farmers apparently arrive in the United States. You know what, guys? For me, this is supposed to maybe make me angry, because how many Palestinian children did Trump, accept in the divided states, right? Because actually, the Trump administration were talking about, refugees come and just depend on the government, so they are not taking any refugees until, obviously, this refugee happen to be completely white, right? We are not talking about mix or whatever. Until the refugees are white, then the divided states can actually take this refugee. Now, having said that, I'm laughing about this because the whole story of what's going on now, it's very, I think it's turning against Trump. First of all, if you call refugee, and I mean real refugees, to come to your country because they are being, obviously we know what the term refugee stands for, right? So in that case, we shouldn't only get 50 refugees, right? Like 50 people, 50 Afrikaners, that's all? That's the only people that are being killed? Can you believe that? Let me be honest. These people, these 50 people that went to the divided states, I can tell you right now that none of them probably have farms. None of them have properties. These are probably poor, struggling people who were just maybe couldn't do it because they were not like hustlers or whatever, to be quite honest. Or maybe they misuse their funds, because obviously it's not like white people are hustlers in that sense, and that's why they have a lot of resources. It's because they were given these resources for free by their ancestors, who obviously rob our people. Now, having said that, now apparently Trump is complaining about these refugees who came, who one of them is apparently was working for like a car parking or whatever. Oh my God, guys, this news. Sorry guys. Sometimes we need to laugh, right? So please don't get angry. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. And then we're going to talk about how they are trying to still smear Traore. the mainstream media. Remember, we talked about that in our previous video. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what's going on with the negotiation between Zelensky and President Putin and all that, and how the European actually want to kind of bully Putin into a corner. But I mean, don't they know this guy by now? So yeah, that's what's coming up on the Traore Army channel. Welcome, guys. My name is Jehovah, by the way. So going back to the divided states about the refugees, so apparently Trump was expecting farmers. Guys, I cannot make this up. This is so funny. And you know what's funny? What's funny is what other white people are actually saying about this whole nonsense genocide that are apparently happening in South Africa, which is obviously not true, right? Because I'm gonna put a video here. Let's listen to this video. It's about how Ramaphosa, how he actually kind of throw that narrative down the drain about white South Africans being in trouble and all that. And I think I like what he says, that just listen to it first.
Well, we've raised our own concern because those people who are being enticed to go to the United States do not fit the definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who has to leave their country out of fear of political persecution, religious persecution, or economic persecution. And
that's what the United States says they're undergoing in South Africa. That's why they've opened the door for them.
Yes, and they don't fit that bill. They don't fit that description. And I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true.
So welcome back. So I love what he said when he says South Africa is the only country actually that still have the colonizers living kind of close with the people that they colonize. I think he was mistaken because Namibia also have the same. Namibia is actually, probably South Africa and Namibia are the only two countries that actually have that, where the colonizers are still living with the people that they colonized. So I don't understand where this genocide are happening, and I don't understand how a genocide is happening right in front of our eyes, but only 50 people managed to actually go to the divided states. What's happening to the other Afrikaners? And other Afrikaners are not complaining. They are actually happy. They say they are okay. And when it comes to like killing of white farmers, it's not killing of white farmers. Maybe it's killing of farmers. I'm not saying it's right, because killing is everywhere, even in the divided states. What are we talking about? To be quite honest, what are we talking about?
When I say certain people have the complexion for protection, this is what I mean. These are the white South African refugees that are coming to the United States after Elon Musk lied and spread misinformation on Twitter, saying that these white South Africans were experiencing G-side by the political party in charge. Here's the timeline of events. On July 31st, 2023, Elon Musk tweets, they are openly pushing for G-side of white people in South Africa. Then he tags the president of South Africa and says, why do you say nothing? So as you can see, Elon Musk has been fueling this fire and spreading this misinformation for fucking years now. Fast forward, Elon Musk spends $300 million getting Donald Trump elected. Donald Trump wins. And the first day in office, January 20th, 2025, when he gets inaugurated, Trump signs an executive order ending the refugee admissions program. An executive order that basically says the United States lacks the ability to absorb large number of migrants, and in particular refugees, because of the availability of resources for Americans. Essentially declaring that the refugees coming to the United States were competing for resources against Americans. Elon Musk then uses the power of being in Trump's ear all the fucking time and up his ass and turns Trump against South Africa. Even though the claims of white G-side are ruled not real by a South African court, literally 4 days later signs an executive order called Addressing Egregious Actions in the Republic of South Africa, where he cuts off all funding to South Africa. Then he fast-tracks white South African citizenship while rejecting all other refugees. Here's where the story gets better. Here's where I say that they had the complexion for protection, because these white South Africans are descendants of mainly Dutch and French colonial settlers who first came to South Africa more than 300 years ago. They were at the heart of the apartheid government that systematically oppressed non-whites. Yeah, they're the ones who get to come here on an air-conditioned plane, walking through the airport, welcome to the United States, given flags for a fucking photo op. Meanwhile, the Afghan refugees who helped the U.S. military during the U.S. military operations in Afghanistan are in dangerous limbo after the Trump administration ordered a pause on the refugee resettlement program. Meanwhile, this is how Black Haitian immigrants are welcomed to the United States. Meanwhile, other refugee populations that are non-white, this is how they come to the United States. I'm not saying that motherfuckers gotta look like their story or look like they struggled, but there's a clear differentiation between people who have valid concerns, valid refugee claims, and seeking asylum versus these motherfuckers that are coming in shorts and look like they're well-fed and look like they have good clothes on their fucking backs. And if you really want to deconstruct all the fucking hypocrisy all the fucking way, why is it that the reason that the U.S. refugee resettlement program was scrapped was because the refugees were competing for resources against Americans, yet the literal website that's helping them resettle into the United States is openly saying that these white South Africans are going to receive financial assistance, a one-time federal grant, $1,275 per person, cash assistance, supplemental nutrition assistance program, food assistance, food stamps, housing assistance, medical assistance, work and employment support. And to top it all off, they won't have to even prove that they were being persecuted.
So it's not killing of white farmers, because when in the process of killing white farmers, they have black workers and the workers also get killed. But except for that, they also killed other people of other races that are not white. What are we talking about? Okay, so this is the thing. We know South Africa is counted as having crime in comparison to probably other African countries. I know that. But we also need to consider that South Africa is actually the only country right now, especially an African country, because the other country is probably Canada, that allows a lot of other countries to actually come and take refuge in their country. Yes, I know xenophobic attacks and so on, but I do know that when it comes to that, they are actually the country that allows a lot of foreigners to come to their country. So we can say that crime obviously won't, exist in that sense. So, but the divided state shouldn't actually act holier than thou, because they have a lot of police brutality. What are we talking about, right? So let's not even go there. Because I don't want videos to be too long, I'm going to take the video of the smear campaign against Traore. I'm going to make it a second video. And then instead of, going into the second point of like the smear campaign of Traore, I'm going to go into the second point becomes what's going on between Moscow and Ukraine and the negotiations, what's happening and so on. So yeah, let's go into that. I think one of the things that is interesting to notice about the European Union in general and just the West on a general kind of point is that they are so used to bullying people that sometimes they forget who they are dealing with. So they have this thing where they want to say ceasefire for 30 days, so that we can do this and this. And then the spokesperson for Putin, for Russia obviously, was like, you cannot use that language with Russia, okay? Who do you think we are? You cannot use that language with Russia. And this is the one thing, that's why I say that sometimes you don't have to agree with somebody completely to be able to actually agree with their other points. Like I always say that I don't agree with Candace Owens, maybe like 30% of her, of what she stands for. I don't, completely agree with that. But I have a lot of things, like 70% of her beliefs, I am 100% on board with that. Like for example, the exaggerated feminist movement and, all these things, I am standing with her. Now, that's the same with Trump. Having said that about, really for me, I definitely know Trump is racist. There is no way you're going to say that you are not racist, yet you say that immigration is full for certain people, but apparently for certain people it's not full. And it happened that those certain people that it's not full for, it's apparently your own color. It's white. They are white. Like, honestly speaking, I can bet 110% that if Those people that are oppressed in South Africa are black people. Trump would have not even moved a finger at all to let them come. He would have called them thugs. He would have said they deserve it, definitely. So let's not even sugarcoat that. We know. But having said that, when it comes to things like, for example, even when it comes to like the Russia and, Ukraine negotiation, I feel like if Trump was not in office, I feel like we would be heading for World War III in so many areas. Trump, at least for me, Trump is like John F. Kennedy looking for peace when it comes to that. Whether it's a thing of like he's afraid or whatever the case is, he still wants peace. But if it was some people who were in office right now, obviously you probably know what I'm talking about and who I'm referring to. Definitely we'll be heading for World War III because obviously we know that these constant wars are created. We know about the constant war in Afghanistan, Iraq, and all those places where constant war end up being like, okay, you'll give this country democracy, and in the process, the infrastructure of this country were destroyed. We actually know that the divided states, when it comes to that, they have been creating war. Okay, take a listen to Julian Assange.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
Okay, that's Julian Assange. For those who don't know who Julian Assange is, he's a journalist who the owner of Wikipedia. So he's the one that exposes the CIA, obviously the divided states in that sense, where they were actually literally bombing civilians, like it was caught on camera and he was in prison for almost close to 10 years. He recently got discharged, but they destroyed that guy's life completely. Like by the time he went out, he was almost like an old man. But having said that, we know this thing of creating constant wars, because constant wars make people to concentrate, because everybody wants to live. So who wants to think about your resources being stolen if you are constantly fighting for your own survival? This is what's going on. And this is what's going to take us to the next video that's going to talk about how they want to paint Traore as if he's this kind of ruthless leader that wants to kill his people. Like, I feel like, to be quite honest, I'm going to say it again, I feel like what they are doing, they are completely insulting our intelligence. They are completely, really thinking we are stupid. How would they think that doing that will let us believe that he is the ruthless killer that they want us to believe? That's like insulting our intelligence. Do you really think we are that stupid? No, of course not. We know the truth. Anyway, guys, I don't want to make this video long. It's already long. Take care and God bless. From me, Jehovah. Bye.
Kelly Jalani ko, Kelly Zetu Sisilamu.